Go inside the Crimson Tide. Tider Insider TV with Rodney Orr and Gary Harris.
You think Florida might want to try a new trick play rather than their patented jump pass? Saturday night, Trey Burton tried to make it work, but instead Nico Johnson swooped in and intercepted it, and it looked like Kirby Smart, before the ball was even snapped, had an idea what was coming. He was jumping up and down, signaling for the jump pass. It turned out to be a pivotal moment as the Gators learned that they're not fooling Alabama anymore. The Tide rolled on Saturday night. And good evening, everybody, and welcome in to Tider Insider TV, presented by Buffalo Rock. Tonight, Dr. Pepper, alongside Rodney Orr from TiderInsider.com. I'm Gary Harris, and Rodney, we got you covered, so let's get right to it. And let's talk about Florida and Alabama in depth. Now, certainly this has become the rivalry in recent years in the SEC. The last two times they met was the SEC championship game. The winner of that game went on to win the national championship. So you had the last two national champions playing in October. And early on, it looked like it was going to be a heck of a game. Alabama got a field goal to open on their first possession, but Florida marched right down to the 2-yard line. But we saw the play that kind of changed the game, and from there, the Tide never looked back, leading 24-3 at halftime and rolling 31-6.
You know, Gary, we've talked about it many times here, how we noticed in the 2008 SEC championship game how Alabama had Florida on the ropes with their physical style of play, and then obviously last year Alabama out-physicaled Florida again. And this year, Florida drives down on the opening march, and the play that tells it all was when they've got the ball within, 12 inches of the goal line, they have to try a jump pass. They physically can't line up and run the football and punch it in.
And it was proven time and time again. You know, Florida had some success moving the ball between the 20s. Their red zone offense was either terrible or Alabama's red zone defense was terrific. Either way, only 2 field goals. You don't see it very often that an Urban Meyer Florida team is held without a touchdown. I mean, you basically don't ever see it. Alabama's defense made a statement in this game. You see Mosley there with the pick 6. You know, after 4 games, the question was, there's no doubt the offense is solid and good, but can the defense raise its game to a championship level? But they were dynamic on Saturday night.
They really
pressuring
were.
The quarterback, harassing Brantley, intercepting balls, recovering fumbles, just generally making life miserable for the Florida offense.
Yeah, and you know, watching them, Gary, when you see Marcel Darius kind of move inside, I think he was just, his quickness was way, way too much for the interior people from Florida. All the defensive line, you know, showed an extra step in terms of quickness. They just seemed, Alabama just seemed to pick up the quickness, Gary, and a lot of pressure, as you mentioned, and sure tackling on the corners.
Well, you know, Rodney, the thing now that a lot of people were saying going into that game was that it had kind of been Alabama and Florida that had separated themselves from the rest of the SEC. Now the Tide with a one-sided victory over the Gators. The question that's being asked now, is it Alabama and everybody else in the conference?
Well, again, yeah, I think so. I think that's a fair question. I think the answer to that is clearly Alabama is the class of the conference. I think, you know, they took that step last year when they beat Mr. Unbeatable Tim Tebow in the SEC championship game, won the national championship, came back. These are supposed to be the 2 best teams. Alabama beat Florida. And again, you look back the previous week, a lot of people think Arkansas may be the 2nd best team in the SEC right now. Alabama beat them at Arkansas. So as we stand right now, Alabama's a class of the SEC, but there is a long way to go.
And despite their loss at Auburn, some are saying that South Carolina is the class of the East, and that's where Alabama has to go next, to Columbia on Saturday afternoon. ESPN Game Day will be there. CBS will televise nationally. It's another one of those big games, and another game against an opponent, much like Arkansas, that's putting everything into this game. I hate to say South Carolina's putting all the marbles into one basket, but you kind of get the feeling they are. They feel like this is a make-or-break game for them.
Well, I think you mentioned Game Day would be there. This is a lot of excitement in terms of, you know, relative to what South Carolina's used to. Let's be honest, they don't draw this much attention very often, and obviously the fact that Alabama's coming to town is a big part of that, but they are an outstanding team. You look at Alshon Jeffrey, that receiver right there, the top receiver in the SEC right now with 27 catches, Gary. He's a dynamic player, as well as Marcus Lattimore. I know he got most of his 366 yards. He got half of those in one game against Georgia, but he is an outstanding player. He's given them a running game that they didn't have, and he's allowed Stephen Garcia, kind of taken some pressure off Stephen Garcia and allowed him the opportunity to do some things differently with the running game and be able to throw the ball down the field. He had 3 touchdown passes against Auburn.
Rodney, something interesting about this SEC schedule, beginning with South Carolina. Alabama has 6 conference games remaining. All 6 of those teams, beginning with the Gamecocks, have a bye week before their game with Alabama. Now, Everybody that's analyzed this has been saying it's a huge advantage for Alabama's opponents, a disadvantage for the Crimson Tide. But yesterday, Nick Saban said the research is in, and that necessarily isn't necessarily the case. Let's take a listen.
Just so everybody knows, we did research on the last 5 years of all other 11 teams in the SEC and how they did after they had a bye week. And their record is 29-29. So I'm not saying I'm right and you're wrong, but the statistics kind of prove that it's not an advantage or a disadvantage to have a bye week.
You and I have been around Coach Saban quite a bit over the last going on 4 years, and they did that research because he is so, he just approaches everything from every angle. At the same time, I think that statement yesterday was made for one reason. He wants his team not thinking anything negatively, no built-in excuses. Go ahead and remove that potential fact that it's an advantage for the opposition and just go out there and play.
Yeah, I don't think there's any question about that. And again, what he says, I think there's some truth to it, but it depends on the situation. I think last year, by the time Alabama got to the South Carolina game, which was here in Tuscaloosa, they were a little bit of a tired football team. I know they were a gassed football team the next week when they played Tennessee here, Gary. And, the bye week that Tennessee had certainly played a big role in allowing Tennessee to stay in that game, I believe.
And we're getting to that midweek point, and I was out at practice yesterday, and you're seeing a lot of tape, a lot of braces. I mean, guys are starting to get banged up. It's just the nature of the game. So you're right. Sometimes a bye week, if nothing else, allows you to get healthy. And South Carolina will have that on their side, coming off a very physical game a couple weeks ago against Auburn. Well, still to come on TITV, we'll make our predictions on the Tide and the Gamecocks. Also, we'll talk recruiting and talk about Nick Saban's latest commitment. And it's not even for the class of 2011. Plus, Tider Insider TV will answer your questions and allow you to comment via the phone, 205-348-9882, or you can email us at TITV@WVUATV.com. Stay tuned because you're watching the show that takes you inside the Tide, the one, the only Tider Insider TV, presented by Buffalo Rock Bottling Company. Rodney will talk football recruiting in just a moment, but first I want to talk to you about Nuke's Express Cafe, one of my favorite places to eat in Tuscaloosa. 205 University Boulevard East, just up from the UA campus, open for lunch and dinner 7 days a week. As a matter of fact, I've got a friend I'm meeting for lunch there this coming Thursday. I go often, whether it's an oven-toasted sandwich, a California-style pizza, or a hand-tossed salad. Everything's made with fresh ingredients. Try one of their soups. Absolutely terrific. They've got a beer and wine menu as well, and a terrific dessert menu featuring cakes, brownies, and Rice Krispie treats. Call them for your catering needs at 758-2455. If you drop by, tell Joel and the good folks at Nukes that you heard Gary Harris talking about them on Tider Insider TV. All right, Rodney, let's talk football recruiting. Let's talk a commitment. But as is often the case with Nick Saban and company at Alabama, the 2011 signing day is still a few months away, but already 2 commitments for 2012. The second coming this past weekend. He's an in-state guy, Caleb Gullidge, out of one of the powerhouse programs in Alabama, Prattville High School. Of course, he's got a teammate, Justin Shanks, down there that the Tide's recruiting as well. But let's talk about Gullidge. 6'4", 265. He seems to have the measurables. Comes from a great program. What does Alabama like about him?
He looks like he has a mean streak,
yeah,
doesn't
he does.
Well, he's an outstanding player. Gary obviously has good size already, and he's got a lot of time to grow and get a lot bigger. He's, again, an outstanding defensive lineman. He also plays or rather defensive lineman. He also plays on the offensive side, and if it came to that, he could play on the offensive side in college. So he is a tremendous prospect right now, and there are a lot of other players, Gary, on that team. Justin Shanks is one who is an outstanding defensive lineman, one of the top defensive linemen for 2012 in the state of Alabama as well as the Southeast. Justin Thomas is a great athlete on that team who could play several positions with tremendous speed. So, Alabama making a little inroad there for the future.
And Gullidge joins Eddie Williams, safety from Panama City Beach, Florida. Already 2 commitments in the class of 2012. Yep. Never too early, I guess, huh?
And, Eddie Williams was at the game as well on Saturday night. Also, Haseen Clinton-Dix, who's committed for the 2011 class. It's possible that Alabama has the top 2 safeties, one in the 2011 and one in the 2012 class. They've already got those guys wrapped up.
Well, I'm sure we'll be talking more football recruiting when we start taking phone calls. We always do. But up next, the Alabama men's basketball team has landed a big commitment, and I mean big. Also still to come tonight, new details into Marcel Darius' agent issues. Did an assistant coach, former assistant coach at another school, try to influence the Tide player? We'll have that story, plus Nick Saban's comments, or lack thereof, about the issue. Plus, as I said, we'll be taking your phone calls and getting to your emails. You'll want to make sure and stick around because Tider Insider TV is just getting cranked up. Stay with us.